Hey folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is my vlog for the Dewey's Summer 24-hour reverse readathon. I'm up and vaguely dressed, so that's a start. It's about 10 minutes to 10, which means the readathon is starting soon. I'm a little frazzled this morning. I'm not feeling great. I had a bad night, so but I'm getting there. I also can't find my Kindle, which is really annoying. So a lot of the Hugo reading that comes from the Hugo pack that I talked about in my TBR, I am going to have to read on my computer, which is disappointing because I can't just curl up in bed. But yeah, that's all right. So I am going to probably start with J.Y. Yang and her novella that's on the Hugo shortlist. Yeah, I figure I'll get that out of the way first and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, I'll check in pretty regularly throughout the day. So the first hour is done of the readathon. I'm about halfway, a little more than halfway through J.Y. Yang's novella. It's quite interesting. Yeah, it's got very interesting concept of gender in that the characters in this particular world that J.Y. Yang has created, they don't have gender until they declare themselves by the time they turn sort of 16, 17, that kind of age, or whenever they're ready really. And then they become a gender. They're helped into this, you know, basically it seems to be that their gender is suppressed through the magic system until they make a decision, and then the doctors move them into the gender that they prefer. So that's interesting. So it's fantasy, and it does deal with members of the royal family. It's this set of twins who were conceived specifically to pay a debt to the abbot of a monastery. And one is a prophet and the other one is not. And it's sort of, they're coming of age and they're developing into their own people kind of thing so far. So I'm not really sure what's going on plot-wise, but it's still very interesting. So yeah, that's what I've read so far, and I'll continue with this particular book until I'm done. So now we're into the third hour of the readathon. In the second hour, I finished my J.Y. Yang novella. It was interesting, seems to be the word that I'm using most. It didn't have the oh my god I love it, but it was interesting. Interesting is a terrible word. It sounds like a negative, but it actually really was interesting. So yeah, and after that I decided that I needed to do some cooking. I'm making muffins, feta cheese and oregano and capsicum muffins, which I was supposed to do last night and then didn't get around to. But anyway, so while I did that, I started listening to Kid Dark Against the Machine by Tansy Ray Roberts on her Shit Might Fly podcast. This is a reread for me. I read it when it first came out as an ebook. And it's part of her superhero universe where superheroes are made in machines every 6 months. And there's all sorts of interesting things that happen around that. So I'm, I think, 3 episodes in. There's 9 or 10 of them altogether, I think. So yeah, so that was good. I haven't really decided what I'm going to read next. I think maybe a graphic novel. I don't really want to sit at the computer for another hour, so I think I might pick up maybe The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. We'll see. I better make a decision and start reading. Hey folks, it's just hit another hour, the end of hour 3, I believe, and I can't be bothered getting out of bed because I'm nice and cozy and warm and it's winter here. Yeah, summer readathon, ha! But I'm just letting you know that I have A, eaten muffins because yummy, and B, I am reading The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Woo! Yeah, this is volume 4 by Ryan North and Erica Henderson. And it's brilliant as usual. It's funny. It's really There are not often things that make me laugh out loud. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is guaranteed to make me laugh out loud. I just get the giggles because it's so adorable. Anyway, I'll update you again later. It's just gone 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've crawled out of bed because I have just finished The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Volume 4 by Ryan North and Erica Henderson. I love these guys. I love this comic so much. It's so funny and just ridiculous, but in that really whimsical, positive. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Anyway, so my next plan is basically I'm going to sit at the computer and read one of the novelettes on my list. I haven't decided which one yet. I'll just pick it by random. And after that, I'm probably actually going to settle down with an actual physical book and Magic for Nothing, I think. So, because I'm in that kind of mood for something that'll make me happy. So I've got about 4 hours left until I need to leave to go to the theatre. I probably won't take an actual book with me. I'll probably do some more listening to Kid Dark Against the Machine while I'm on the bus. Yeah, and waiting for it to start and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's my latest updates and doings. Hey, so I'm back in the bedroom. You can see by the sunlight, that's because the sun's going down behind me. It's winter. It goes down early here. It's only just 3 o'clock. But yeah, so it's been another hour. I have read one of my novelettes, which was the one by Yoon Ha Lee. So it's called Extracurricular, I think. Extracurricular Activities, something like that. And it was like a military science fiction thing. So that was cool. What else? And I also went and got myself, hang on, some apple tea. Smells so good. Yeah, so, and listened to another quick episode of Kid Duck Against the Machine while I did that. It was like a 5-minute episode, so it was easy. And I have literally just started reading, if I put the tea down properly, yeah, Magic for Nothing, by Shauna Maguire, which is the 6th book in the Encrypted series. Which is a series that I love. It's an urban fantasy series, and it's basically, it starts where the last book left off, but it's the first book from the perspective of Antimony Price, who's the youngest of the three Price siblings, who are so far the protagonists of these books. So yeah, I haven't really met Antimony yet, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, catch up later. Hey, so it's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've been reading since 10, so that's 6 hours. I am 58 pages into Magic for Nothing by Shauna Maguire. It's kind of awkward because Antimony Price is the little sister and Verity Price, the older sister, and the middle child is, I think she's the middle child. Anyway, she's been the protagonist of 3 of the previous books, and I actually really like her. It's the whole ballroom dancing thing. And Antimony really does not like Big Sis. So that's kind of awkward to read. But yeah, otherwise I'm going really well. I'm going to get up and get a drink. And yeah, I've got another couple of hours before I need to leave for the theatre. So I'll just continue reading this book. Hey, still in bed, really lounging around, and still reading Magic for Nothing, which is making me cackle, to be honest. I just stopped in the middle of a chapter because it got to a paragraph that, like, I just found hilarious, being Australian. So I might actually read it to you. Australia, amusingly... Let me try that again. Australia, amusingly, was never mentioned. They appeared to have decided that the right way to deal with the land down under was to pretend it didn't exist, since it wasn't likely they could even get an agent onto Australian soil without the native cryptids and cryptozoologists bouncing them right back to Europe. North America was still viewed as somehow reclaimable if they worked hard enough and never gave up. Australia was one big old nope. And yeah, I find that kind of hilarious. This whole attitude to Australia in these books is just, yeah, kind of bonkers. There's actually one of the earlier books is actually set in Australia and is hilarious. But yeah, still reading. I'm 118 pages in, which is about 32%, so about a third of the way through, if Goodreads is telling me the truth. Yeah, and still powering through. It's 5 o'clock, so sometime in the next hour or so I need to get up, get vaguely more presentable, and then go away so I can go to the theatre, which reminds me I actually have to print out my ticket. That would be useful. But yeah, for the moment I'm just going to continue reading this one. All right. Well, this kind of looks like a very scary movie, but I'm on my way to the bus stop so that I can go to the theatre. I've got audio stuff with me to read while I'm getting there, and I did chuck Magic for Nothing in my bag just in case because I'm really enjoying it, and I'm like halfway through it now, so I guess I'll see you after the show when I get home. All right. Hey, I am back from theatre. It was brilliant as usual. I do love Bango Dance Theatre. I'm just waiting for the oven to heat up so that I can toast some Turkish bread and have that with hummus and maybe a little bit of salad because I didn't really have a proper dinner. Well, let's just say I've eaten most of the muffins that I made this morning. Yeah. They're easy to eat when you don't want to spend time doing stuff. But yeah, so I'm going to try and have some vaguely healthy food. And then read more. So I've been on the way back from the theatre. I started listening to Pride and Prejudice read by Lindsay Duncan. So obviously it's reread. You all know this is my favourite book and I've read it so many times. But I've had a bad experience with an audio before, as I said earlier. But Lindsay Duncan, I'm pretty sure I can trust Lindsay Duncan. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. I'm up to the assembly where they first meet Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. So I'll continue listening to that while I put some food together, and then I will pick up... Well, I'm not sure. I want to continue with Magic for Nothing, but I would also like to get the 2 novelettes that I still have to read tonight. So we'll see what happens. Hey, so I'm back in a more formal filming position. This will be my last update for the evening. It's 11:20. I've got a lot read. I am about 70-something% of the way through Money for Nothing, so nearly there. Getting very exciting, but I know that everything's about to go wrong. That's just the way these books work. Yeah, so, and I have also just read the last 2 novelettes on my list. So that was, The Secret Life of Bots by Suzanne Palmer, which was very cute and very amusing. And science fiction, yeah, so it was cute. And bots. I also just finished reading Windwall Rove by Sarah Pinsker, which was just lovely. And so it's also science fiction, but it's also very, very full of folk music. And it's all about folk music. And yeah, it was just lovely. So I really enjoyed that. So since it's 11:20, I just need to actually get some sleep at some point. Hence this being the last update of the night. I'm going to continue reading Money for Nothing, either until I am too tired and want to go to sleep, or until I'm finished. Whichever one of those comes first, I guess. I am feeling quite tired despite all the caffeine that I've had. So I might make myself a cup of apple tea and move on to that. And I'll see you in the morning. I'll set an alarm so that I get up with a bit of time. The readathon finishes at 10 a.m. So hopefully I'll get at least a few hours reading before it finishes once I've woken up. All right. So it's a little past 8 in the morning on Sunday. There are less than 2 hours left of the reverse readathon. I've technically been awake for an hour. My alarm went off at 7. I kept hitting the snooze button for half an hour, but I also at the same time put on the audio of Pride and Prejudice that I was listening to last night, and listened to another half hour or so of that. So yeah, they've just had the visit of Mrs. Bennet and Lydia and Kitty to Netherfield while Jane was sick, and all the embarrassing conversations that happened then. And then I picked up Lumberjanes Volume 4, Out of Time, by Noelle Stevenson. I love this series. I'm about halfway through this particular volume, and it's the same madcap adventures and friendship and all of that kind of stuff and supernatural creatures. So yeah, so I've started that. I don't think I'm gonna get much significant reading done in the next 2 hours. I'm about to sit down and have a look at the Hugo packet again for the best related work category and maybe read like first chapters or whatever of some of those. And I will definitely try and finish Lumberjanes. And I'm not sure what else. Yeah, I guess we'll see what I'm in the mood for. As you can see, I'm still in my pajamas. So, and I'm probably not going to get out of my pajamas until after the readathon. So, hey. Hey, so it's not quite 9 o'clock. So there's just over an hour of the readathon to go. I've just been reading the introductions and first chapters, sort of depending on how long each one was, of various books from the best related work category in the Hugo Awards. 2 of them I did kind of skim the extracts because they were only extracts, and that was Ian M. Banks' Modern Masters of Science Fiction and A Lit Fuse, The Provocative Life of Harlan Ellison, because I was really not all that interested in either of those. But I read a bit of Crash Override, How Gamergate Nearly Destroyed My Life and How We Can Win the Fight Against Online Hate by Zoe Quinn. So that looked interesting. Luminescent Threads, Connections to Octavia E. Butler, which I was well expecting to like, and I did, having read like the introductions and the first letter. No Time to Spare, Thinking About What Matters by Ursula K. Le Guin. So I read sort of the first blog post of that. And Sleeping with Monsters, Readings and Reactions in Science Fiction and Fantasy by Liz Burke. I read the first review that was in that as well as skimming the introduction. So that's what I've done in sort of the last 45 minutes, but my brain has had enough. And so for the last hour or so, I'm going to go back to Lumberjanes. And then I think if I still have some time left once I've finished Lumberjanes, I may tackle a short story or 2 out of Robots versus Fairies, which is the current anthology that I'm trying to read. So, yeah, I guess I'll see you for a wrap up at the end of the readathon. Alright, it's a few hours after the readathon finished. I am clean, dressed and vaguely conscious. So it's time to wrap up the 24-hour Dewey's reverse readathon in July. Yeah, so I'll start with what I read digitally. So there was one novella from the Hugo list, and that was The Black Tides of Heaven by J.Y. Yang, which I found quite interesting. Yeah, I know, interesting is a terrible word. But anyway, I read 3 of the Hugo Award novellas. So they were Extracurricular Activities by Yoon-Ha Lee. Sorry, not novellas, novelettes. Extracurricular Activities by Yoon-Ha Lee, The Secret Life of Bots by Suzanne Palmer, and Wind Will Rove by Sarah Pinsker, which was probably my most joyfully surprising moment of the readathon. I really, really liked that one. It hit some specific folk festival buttons for me. I also, from the Hugo list, had a bit of a look, spent 45 minutes having a bit of a look at the best related work category and reading the introductions or parts of the excerpts or, you know, the first part of all the various entries. So Crash Override by Zoe Quinn, the Ian M. Banks book by Paul Kincaid, A Lit Fuse, The Provocative Life of Harlan Ellison, Nat Segaloff, Luminescent Threads, edited by Alexandra Pierce and Mimi Mondal, No Time to Spare by Ursula K. Le Guin, and Sleeping with Monsters, Readings and Reactions in Science Fiction and Fantasy. Off the top of my head, Luminescent Threads is probably the one I would like to continue reading at some stage. But the Liz Burke and the Zoe Quinn are also kind of interesting should I feel a need for more non-fiction that's not already on my TBR shelves. I also read 2 audiobooks. Well, I listened to the podcast version of Kid Dark Against the Machine by Tansy Rayner Roberts. I think it's a novelette. I don't think it's quite long enough to be a novella. But that was a reread for me. But it was the podcast version, so it's audio version. I also listened to an hour and 12 minutes of Pride and Prejudice, which got me up until Jane being ill at Netherfield and certain embarrassing conversations with Mrs. Bennet. Yes, so that was also a reread, but that was the audio stuff that I did. And then in terms of hard copy, I read one novel, so Seanan Maguire's Magic for Nothing, which is the 6th book in the Encrypted series and is also Hugo nominated in the Best Series category. So this is the first book starring Antimony Price, the youngest of the 3 Price siblings, and it was fun and hilarious, and yeah, I do love this series and I do love the Aislinn Mice. You all know that. So there was that. I also read 2 graphic novels, both volume 4s. I read volume 4 of The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, I Kissed a Squirrel and I Liked It by Ryan North and Erica Henderson. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is one of my favourite comics because it's just funny and silly and completely mad and adorable and really positive. So I really, really like that. And I read volume 4 of Lumberjanes, Out of Time by Noelle Stevenson. And you also all know that I really love the Lumberjanes and I really need to read more of it. So in this particular one, there was some adventures with some new people and some old people, and you know, the ethics of hunting down a creature just because it looks scary. So yeah, so I read that. And then the final thing that I did in the readathon in the last 45 minutes is I read 3 short stories out of Robots vs. Fairies. This is an anthology edited by Dominic Parisian and Narva Wolf, who edited the really brilliant The Starlit Wood a couple of years back. So I read 3 stories in this. So if I can just figure out which stories they were by the contents page. Alright, so I read Murmured Under the Moon by Tim Pratt, which was probably my favourite of the 3 stories that I read today. I read The Blue Fairies Manifesto by Annalee Newitz, and I read Bread and Milk and Salt by Sarah Gailey, which was kind of terrifying and a bit difficult, but still really good. So that was the last thing that I read in this readathon, the reverse readathon, happening in July with a much more relaxed time frame for we of us in Australia, since it actually started at 10 in the morning and set out at 10 at night. So I hope if you have been following along the readathon, you enjoyed this, you enjoyed this video. If you participated in the readathon, I really hope you had a good time. TMZ had a lovely time. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. Clearly I'm still tired. Team ANZ had a really great time on Twitter as usual. That's our hashtag that we use for us Australian and New Zealand readers in the readathon. And yeah, I will see you all again really soon. Bye.